which works out perfectly. Well, they're probably like, why weren't you here a second ago? Okay. If you're hearing me, congratulations. You made it to my live feed. I don't even know if I can get on anything here. We'll see if this works. Because I can't read your comments if you did. Let's go with, search my name. There I am. Okay. I got one person watching, and it's probably me. Oh, awesome. It's halfway working. Can you guys hear me okay? I know I'm not talking very loud. I have 30 people watching. This is amazing. I'm trying to set things up. It turns out I went to eat with my wife, so not a bad thing necessarily. I was spending too much time in the shop, so we definitely needed to have some time to eat together. So bear with me on that one. So I'm a little bit late getting out of here. Oh, better turn down my volume here. It's really windy here, so if you hear like a squeaking, it's a garage door that's blowing. It actually took off a couple shingles up in the corner. I don't have a ladder tall enough to reach to that thing either. Awesome deal there, because the ceiling's like 12 foot. Could someone please comment and tell me if you can hear me? Well, evidently you can't. Okay, we'll just go. Let's answer some questions. All right. Ooh, they're going fast. And the answer was yes, you can evidently hear me. Awesome. Good evening, take two. Yeah, this is the second time trying to do a live feed. It actually messed up and tried doing it the other direction, which is stupid. I'll just go down here. Daryl Bills, what's going on, Eric? Another day in the village. Just doing my thing. Sounds good. Zay09, do you work on Jaguar engines in the 1960s straight six? No, only domestic V8s, and 2 valve per cylinder. I don't do the other stuff. Preston Mod, is there a storm there? Not yet. It's just really, really windy, and I'd heard this was going to happen anyway, but I was like, this is a funny story, and I'll get to your question, trust me. So this morning, they said, I got this pop-up yesterday about there was going to be really bad wind. So anyway, I got up this morning and I was like, I'm not going to work on the charger, you know, because it's really bad wind. I don't want things blowing around or whatever. And I got up and the wind was less than it was last night when I went to bed. And anyway, and I was like, well, it's cloudy. It looks like it's going to rain, so I won't do it. Well, then the sun came out. I was like, well, screw it. There's hardly any breeze. This is fine. I'll just change the coils on the charger. Got halfway through, and then here it comes, the wind. So yeah, it's bad now. They knocked the semi off the road. I saw that on the news. But anyway, it is there. Sirens going off in Western Kentucky. That means it's time to go outside and look and see what's going on. Zay, I already answered your question about the Jaguar. No. Rigged garage. What's the best cathedral port head you have flowed? I can't tell you. I said in one of the videos about the reason why that last one was the best I'd ever flowed, and I can't tell you who it was for, because it's for a customer that can't be revealed, but it's the best. It beats a lot of LS3 stuff, like 99% of them. I still haven't done the Canaan valve step. BTAR was supposedly sending me a head to get to mess with, but I've never gotten it. Hello from Scott Purnell in California. We can hear you fine. Good. Bad thunderstorm in central Illinois, so I might lose you. Oh man, sorry. People. Hi from Canada, and that's 79 stroker. Good to see you. What's your opinion on the ZR1? Is it positive or negative to the old school racing industry? I'm not as familiar on the ZR1 stuff. It's too bad Bishop isn't here because he probably could tell all the stats on that. He's much more up to date on the newer car stuff. And I don't have a problem with the new stuff. I don't. It doesn't bother me either way. Everybody thinks I'm just old school. I like it. I just like to be realistic, okay? Small block Chevy, the engines we're making make as much power as the ZR1, or I mean the LTE and LS stuff. They can make up all this other crap, and I keep hearing it's all marketing propaganda. Because it's not like I don't build every engine almost. I don't really build them, but I guess I dyno almost every engine. They make the same. You know, I thought there'd be some gigantic leap, and we're like, oh my God. They're all about the same. If we're being honest. So I don't have a problem with the new stuff at all, but just be honest about the power they make. So anyway, that'll probably get some people going. Are still going to test the Vortec head. That's from James Young. Yes. The only reason why I'm not testing the Vortec heads next on the 383 is because I literally have to do all the machine work to them. So they need a fresh valve job, and then I am going to blend them, which means I'm going to grind on cast iron heads, which I don't like. But it's just for testing. Then they still need milled. These ones are cut down on the guides, so that's good. We'll have to do that, and then put those on there. So it's much easier for me just to take these trip clothes, which right here, and just bolt them on because they're ready to be bolted. Don't take any other. I mean, changing heads still takes the same amount of time, but I don't have to do the machine work on the heads and assemble the heads and all the other stuff to go with it to get them. But I will do that. I promise. So it's just not yet, but I promise I'm doing it because I still want to test the 882 heads, which I know a lot of you are watching like, this is the dumbest things you're going to do. Because I truly think I know those down in the same CCs. They're going to make the same as that 461s. I know you're like, we'll see. We'll see. Mike Haas, my friend had a bad experience with the CAM program from DV. Wondering if you offer any support for it. Thanks. No, I don't offer support for a program I didn't sell. No. And I know he's like, donate. He kept, and I didn't even know this for the record. You would think we teamed up together. No. I did not know that he brought up on a video that if you donate to the Cam Challenge, my small block Chevy Cam Challenge, that you get like a 14-day trial or something with it. He just did it, and then they keep emailing me and asking me, did this person donate? And I'd say yes, and then you get your sting. I didn't know he was doing that. So, no. And one of my biggest pet peeves, if I'm being honest, but you get a live feed, you get all of it, good and bad. I hate when people ask me a question about something they didn't buy from me. It drives me literally up the wall. Another random rant, if I'm going to, and it's going to be short. I should never answer a phone on the weekend. So like if it's some strange number, I try not to. Because every time I get burned. Today is a prime example. It's a Stillwater, which is Oklahoma number. And I'm like, okay, sure enough. And I'm like, I shouldn't answer it. I'm going to answer it. I'll be nice, so I'm just going to answer it. Hey, can you give me some technical advice? Of course, it's about something I'm not selling. They're never going to buy anything from me. Waste my ever-loving time. When I answered the phone, by the way, I was underneath Bishop's car with this much space trying to tighten the bolt. And I was like, good God, why did I do this? Why? But no, I don't offer tech advice to things you didn't buy from me. My son attends college. I live 15 miles from Arkadelphia. Nick Cayley. It's always good when they go to college, but I do like Henderson. Although, if I could, I would like to tell a story with that because they kind of got in trouble. So I don't want to say anything, but I am a little frustrated on that because he didn't have no part of that. Carl Jr. I have an E4 supercharger with a little 122 from Elderbrock. I'm going to be running the Blueprint 220cc heads. The ports in the lower intake are a lot smaller than the heads. Is it worth port matching? I believe it would be. I think you should do that. Port matching seems to be a game. Zay09. Your flow head test from years ago is still amazing. Have you considered to test heads? Flow under pressure to simulate forced induction heads to see what port valve combination is the best? No, because the flow switch only pulls 28 inches of vacuum. The live engine, you're pulling way more vacuum than that. More air, anyway. One of the weird tests, and you could go back about 4 years ago, it was like right when I started doing YouTube. it was a dumb test, but it was really interesting. I flowed ahead just like what you see here, and then I grabbed the leaf blower. And all I did is I blew the leaf blower from here at the port, and it did flow more air. So flew it naturally, put on the leaf blower, blowing more air in, and it moved more. So it flowed more air. It was a dumb test, but it was interesting nonetheless. Steve Smith, saw an oil pan video you have done. What do you run on your S10? I did an engine X member delete, and I'm wanting to kick out pan. Do you have a recommendation? On the S10, unfortunately, it has a Mylodon pan with no windage tray or crank scraper. The old engine that was in it was a hamburger one that had the crank scraper and a windage tray. But this one, because it's a Dart SHP block that's in there now, hamburger doesn't make it for the passenger side dipstick, so I can't run that. So I ran the Mylodon one, whatever, because this engine was built by Nice. He no longer even builds engines. But anyway, that was the only one that I really had a choice for. I did, of course, have the cross member cut out and stuff, but I never switched pans. Whenever this small block Chevy cam challenge gets done, that 421 will go into that. And it has a Moroso pan that has the kickouts on the side. Really nice pan. I am going to notch the cross member to make sure that that clears. That's what should have been in it to begin with. Also, Bill Hodgkins, for the record, in case you're wondering why he keeps nailing the oil pan on with his Malibu, it's because it's the S10 oil pan. And that oil sump sits lower because it's you ever seen an S10 oil pan? It's got very, very little here and a longer sump because you have to have some volume. The only way you can get it, because you can't make it this way wider, you can only make it deeper, which makes it closer to the ground. But they all run it because they're used to it, because they got to keep switching engines between any of the other combinations. They can always keep switching it to the other cars or whatever. That's the reason for it. Mini Black Mog. What spacer would you use on a 440-inch small block, 700-inch bracket engine, 1050, 4150 on methanol? Probably that HVH 2-inch 4-hole taper. That's what I run. Chris Williams. Oh man, I messed this up. Chris Williams. What solid roller valve springs are living the longest on a hot rod car? Currently using ISKI 9915, 200 seat, 500 open. ISKI really doesn't make springs. I know you're like, they do. No, PSI makes the springs for them. PSI springs seem like they live the longest, but they've got different versions. They've got ones that are like, for instance, there's some that in an ML. That's the more basic one. Then they got ones that are RML. That's the last 3 letters on that number. Those ones seem to last the longest, and because of that, they cost more. Although PAT 1225 springs, I sell a ton of those. That's what I use on a lot of the heads. I mean, you can go back and watch that video. That I had them on an engine that was sitting for like 7 years, and it still tested final pressure. Those springs are on the 540 that I dyno test with. So I don't know. They have an endurance version of that spring too, the 1325 from PAT. So there are many. James Young, awesome. I know they will smoke the 292s. I hope so. I really do think that Vortex will be pretty good. I also have the aftermarket Vortec cast iron ones that are here, have been here for years, and I haven't got a chance to finish those. Those should be really good. James Young, I had an angle milled 993s with outflow to 461s. Agreed. Mike Code, when is the LS back cut test? I brought this up. Really, I encourage all 86 of you. Come on, I wish more people were watching. I would encourage you guys to watch my update videos, because in the update videos, I actually told you what's going on with all the dyno stuff. And on the back cut on that one, it's time. I cannot make it to the dyno because I'm spending too much time in the shop right now, because these jobs have got to get done. So, and the same thing's going on with Dunsworth. That's where you do all the dyno testing anyway. He's got engines for circle track stuff that has to be dynoed and done. So it wouldn't be fair, one, for me to cut in front of some of the circle track guys that have races to make, or also take away from the customers have here. It'll get done as soon as it can. All I have to do is assemble the heads, but I really, really want to port this intake so when it goes on there, it has a better chance of showing a bigger difference. But that's a time thing. Time is killing me. LXU. Good day, Eric. What's your thoughts on polishing combustion chambers to reduce engine temperature, carbon buildup, and improve engine efficiency? I think it's a waste of time. It doesn't do anything, I don't think, for a combustion chamber reducing temperatures at all. Carbon buildup, I don't believe that at all. And I'm going to tell you why, too, because there's several times we polish. Back in the day, I used to have, like, the exhaust ports were, like, mirror finish. And I would get them in for a rebuild, and guess what was still on them? Carbon. It was just as hard to get it off then, too. So it's not, like, super difficult, but it's still there. So that doesn't help the carbon buildup at all. And besides, if we're being honest, if you're building up carbon on the chamber, cylinder chamber, the chambers, that means, in theory, you have more compression ratio than you did before because there's more stuff taking up the space, in theory. So I don't even know if that's a negative, unless it's reducing airflow or the burn rate or something. I don't think it's necessarily as bad as they think. Rigged, oh my gosh, Rigged and Jimmy Garage, iron guides or bronze guides, and why? I use bronze and all the aluminum heads for obvious reasons. And then cast iron guides I'll use occasionally just because they're easier on some of like the 461 heads, like the cast iron stuff, but I don't do a whole lot of cast iron. On circle track, you should absolutely run bronze guides. Cast iron guides, you have to have the clearance is much larger because of the heat that builds up. Bronze guides are far less likely to stick a valve for circle track. T-shafts, are you using stock valves in your Vortec heads? No, because the first Vortec heads are the ones from Gary Dunsworth, and they're 202-1600s, and they're not stock. I do have another set from Paul Barlow from Team Tard. Those ones I'm using some Urson 194 150s. So yeah, there you go on that. Carl Jr., thank you from the 200 Club. I actually appreciate the 200 Club. Those that know the videos know who you are, and I appreciate all 200 of you. You're probably some of the 86 that are watching. Pontiac 411. If someone got David Vizier's program, should have Stan's email as he distributes it and handles support. Okay. Trenton Denny, is there anyone racing at the 23-degree race? He really wants to because he's trying to enter. And I've said this before. There's not 25 cars by the end of this month. I'm calling it. And then I'm just going to have a gathering of friends. And we'll just race our car for fun. Maybe half the day so it doesn't cost me so much. And then we'll go get some neat at Kindle's. It's in Noble. It's a great place. Gavin Taylor. Yep, answering the phone on Sunday sucks when you're trying to have one day for you. Yep. Still want to replace my Weingartner racing t-shirt. You mentioned shirt had issues. Any updates? I do need to do that. For the last 3 weeks, I was like, one of my other things, I was going to contact my t-shirt people. Because it used to be, if you bought a set of Dragon Slayers, I never advertised this, I would put a shirt in there with it. But I ran out of shirts. The shirt company left where they were at, and I have meant to, for the last 3 weeks, get a hold of them to order some new shirts, but that hasn't. I keep forgetting or just run out of time. There's a little bit of both. Jacob Gibson, is Carson Camper going to do any more of those spacers for you? Seems like you had some good results with the one he did. He sent another one that's a 4150, and I will probably test that when the 406 gets dynoed again. I also have another one with the Dominator ones. So whenever the 406 mule is on, which again, that really shouldn't be that long. That'll be the next one. My neck's been killing me. I now know why it hurts. It's getting underneath the car, trying to tighten something in this range of motion. That jacked me up. When if AFR gives you Hemi heads, are you going to port them before you install them on the charger or put them bone stock? That's T6HP. Okay. That's a great question. Let me explain. AFR has they've been great. They've sent me a lot of stuff. But I think because they want more data that would help them be useful for selling heads and other things that they sell. So they're more specific on what they actually would like me to test. They used not to be. So like for instance, that 227s and the AFR 195s and enforcers, those were never targeted for the 406 or the eliminator or enforcers weren't. But now they would prefer for things to they could give that information to customers whenever they went to order. So the long way of saying no, I'm not going to import them. They have a 180 that they're supposed to maybe send and a 195. I don't really want anything bigger anyway to test. The 180's as cast. The 195, I guess, has got some CNC work done to it. Most likely, I'll eventually take the 180s after it's tested in the stock form, like I will do for them. I might try to modify it, see what I could get and do from there. I need to see if there's a big enough market for the Hemi anyway, if it'd be worth it at all to buy the plate for the CNC machine to actually CNC port the Hemi heads. Because the plate's like $1,800. And if there's not enough demand, it's just a waste, a further waste of money. So I'm installing the bone stock, what I'm trying to say. Preston Mons, whatever. What's your favorite out of the box small block Chevy intake? Man, there's some behind the scenes stuff on some of the testing that you guys never hear about. Probably the Bill Mitchell 4150 if you're doing that one. That one's really good. It is. Bad news. Yeah, I ordered one in like January or beginning of January or late December. It never got, it's still not here. It's back ordered. So I don't know what's going on with that, but I had to cancel the order and move on to something else. So it's a great intake. You can't get it. Chevy RC. I don't remember asking what type of chamber style you like. Example, AFR, Pro Top Line, Brodix, Profiler type. What's your opinion between the two? Right now, I can't give an answer to that. I'm going to tell you why. I hate people that just run their mouth anyway and just give some random thought on what they think, because I guess I used to be that person too. It's all over Facebook. Now I would prefer if I had an actual answer through testing. And that's the reason why I'm really looking forward to the 406 getting back on the dyno, because one of the things that will be tested will be different, just chamber designs. Because now that I have the CNC programs, I can alter just the chamber to see what it does. So I don't want to speculate. I want to prove. So I don't have an answer for you. What's prediction on horsepower difference between the back cut and no back cut? I think about 20 or 30. But I've been wrong, and what if it's nothing? Boy, that would save me some time. But I don't think it will. And yes, I'm going to test multiple cams to see if the duration if it has an effect on the duration of the cams too. I'm going to test like 3 of them. Wow. 89 people, okay. We are in a budget build-off 305 challenge. We have 601 heads. What would be some good modifications to help flow? The easiest one's a valve job. Do the valve job, do the blending, you've got it. That's it. Mike Code, LS test. Can you be more specific, like what are you talking about? What LS test would you like to see done? Oh, Bobby. Do I port cast iron heads? I actually probably would for you, Bobby. So if you said, hey, I got these cast iron heads, unless you said big block, you're not that great of a friend. Sorry, pal. But small block ones, I might do it for you. And only you. Maybe a few others. Let's see. Howard, thank you for what you do, Eric. Yep. Thank you, man. LA Gamer. Do you think stock Dragon Slayers could support 650 on a flat top 406? If not, how much? It really depends on what dyno you're on. And I hate to be that guy, but it does. Because, is it working, by the way? Yeah, all right. This one locked up, but this was still going. It really depends on the dyno. Because I don't think you can make 650 on a, well, you could with compression, I guess. On none with dyno 650 with the stock Dragon Slayer, that'd be pretty tough. Pretty tough. But on somebody's dyno, some of these others are pretty up there. So maybe. Realistic, we were talking about real numbers from which I think Dunsworth is, I think that head's probably closer to 620 stock. It's not bad, it just is what it is. Don Dieter, DZ Performance Car Scrapers. I don't know what to think about him. I don't know if he ever got him. I haven't talked to him in a while. But he didn't really want to show me the spacer because he was afraid I might copy it. Whatever. But I don't have any opinion on that spacer at this time because I just don't know. So, I don't know. Pontiac 411, Pudding Fab Shop YouTube in Oklahoma has a local merch shop that you may check out if the supplier is gone. I might look into that. Bobby Williams, hi Mr. Eric, could you tell me what port 706 flow? Man, could you be more generic? I don't understand what you're saying. Let me see if I can read this better. Now I've lost it on here. Hey Eric, could you tell me what port 706 flow? Thank you. You might rewrite that because I don't understand what you mean, Bobby Williams. Robert, I don't think I can even lift the big block cast iron head. I had bigger arms back then when I was doing them, I'll tell you that. So, man, I had jacked. I was like, Daniel Powell didn't have nothing on my arms back then. Which I'm getting to be that point too. I'm like, back in my day, I was really strong. Although when I go to the gym, the only thing I've kept up with and is probably stronger than I've ever been is my legs. So you want to get me squatting, I'll squat. But bench now, I'm embarrassed by how bad it is. It's still better than most, but it's nothing what it was. Embarrassing. My arms look like toothpicks, it feels like too. It sucks. But I am getting better at swimming. Bias TV, hello from Australia, my favorite place. Bias TV, when you're porting, how often do you have to spray the cutter to stop it clogging? Is there an automatic way of spraying the cutter? Okay, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked that one. So, if you start off with a new carbide burr, typically those ones, man, they can go a long, long time. Probably the best example I tell you is when I grind intake manifolds, because you think about it, it's probably it's longer than that. It's probably 3 to 4 hours of just straight grinding. And you just harden to it. And then when a brand new burr, if you're watching it and doing things correctly, it won't clog. I can go for a while. Usually it's about the second or third manifold on the brand new burr. And I say that, occasionally it'll get a little one. But usually by the second or third manifold, then it starts clogging way more often. And I won't say it's like grind, oh, clog, grind, oh, clog. No, it's not quite like that. It's more like you grind for a while and then it'll just clog. But here's what I do. I don't pick them off, except for sometimes I do just because I'm just trying to rest my shoulders for a second, and I'll use my pick and I'll dig the aluminum piece out. But if you just dig the aluminum out of the burr and you go back to it, instant clogging in. So here's what I do. I have Roll Purple's Max Film, and it's a spray lubricant. The only reason why I even have it and started using it is because a long time ago they sponsored the Ninja Master Challenge. They gave us a whole bunch of the goodies. One of those things happened to be the Max Film lubricant. You could think of it like WD-40, except for it's a bazillion times better. When I spray that on, I can go another probably an hour before it clogs up again, if that. It kind of just depends on what you're grinding and how you're grinding it. In other words, if you're more on the top of the, because usually I use a rounded, straight one. I don't know what that thing's called now, but a rounded straight when I'm grinding a manifold. Sometimes if you have it too far down, like you're doing the bottom, the very tip will clog, and that kind of messes up the whole thing. But if you're like doing the flat like you would on most of the stuff, most of the areas that you're cutting, it doesn't really clog that much. Same with the back. If you get into the back, so in other words, you're cutting more of an angle up the back, where it's got the straight part of the cutters, or flutes, those will clog too, so it's the same situation. Hopefully that answered it a little bit better. Chris Allman, hello from Charleston, South Carolina. My son's going to South Carolina, actually. I think it's not this week, the next week. I guess it's their spring break, and he already got he just said he spent some money on to reserve a room or something, and I should say room. They're getting a house, an Airbnb, and they're going to hang out with the bros. Moose Goose, Moose's Garage, man, my reading sucks, huh? Is port matching and intake worth it? Love your videos. Yes, it is. It's worth about 20. I've done several of those. So, yeah, that one's, it's worth, and I shouldn't say about 20. It really depends on how bad the port match is. So if it's really close, then it's going to gain you hardly anything. If it's really bad, then it'll gain quite a bit. Okay. David True. I bought a 440 small block. They claim to have 600 and some horsepower. Do you think that that's possible with 11X heads? Yes, and be careful, because like the 11X heads, those are used in ASCS sprint car engines. They just have that ASCS in them. So some of them, I mean, those sprint car deals, some of them are 360 classes. They're making 7. So yeah, you can, no doubt. I don't know if yours is that way, but Chevy RC. On pistons, do you like lateral or horizontal gas ports? Typically I'll do lateral because the horizontal ones will kind of clog, but some people put both on. T-chaps. Bought an 18-volt drywall cutoff tool this week. It came with a 4-inch collet, so I was curious what would happen if I tried porting with it. Worked pretty good, surprisingly, although you don't know what you're going to use, what'll work. You know what's this is a true story. The first thing I actually ported a set of heads with, and I'm not making this up, was a Black & Decker drill. The electric, not corded, not battery powered, and corded, and it was probably from the 1970s. So my dad's like, hey, you want to, I was like, teach me how to port heads, because he said he knew how. We didn't have an he had an air compressor. It was one of those contractor ones back in the day that didn't have a tank. So it was just made to spray paint. So it couldn't run a die grinder, which we didn't have anyway. So he just gave me this drill with the max speeds like 1200 RPM, and it's got a little stone deal on it. I just thought that's what you did, and I just ground away. I wore the bearing on that thing. But you could use a lot of different stuff. Talk about back cuts. Do you see common trends, or is every application different? This is the reason why I really want to do that back cut test. I feel like it's going to answer a lot of the questions that I need to know right now. So even with the R&D stuff that I'm doing on the heads, there's things I need to know now. So if the back cut's really worth it, then it changes what I'm doing, because it means the low lift flow is dramatically worth more than the high lift flow, which means then I should alter what I'm doing in the chamber, because one thing in the chamber can really help low lift flow. But there are things that can help with the high lift flow, but also sacrifices some compression. So what I'm trying to get at is I need to have that answer. I don't have that answer, and that's why I hate speculating on it, but I desperately need it. My heart and my brain says the back cut's probably going to make more. And that will probably change some things. If the non-back cut makes more, man, then I'm going to say screw low lift flow. Bobby Williams, how much does 706 heads flow? I'm assuming you're talking about stock. 230, 240. About the same as a cast iron Vortec, and that's the truth. Carl Jr., yeah, thumbs up, people. I got over 100 of you watching. So thumbs it up. Big Mike's Garage. Would you ever do a video on setting up rocker arm geometry on 23-degree small block Chevy? I run into challenges with longer than stock link valves. Here's the thing, and this is what I probably can on when I do the 383. One, it does actually take time to film, because one, I suck at it, and two, I suck at editing, which you all know. Especially if you're one of the 200 that make it to the end of the video. I know some of you are like, did he just play that clip? I swear he did. But anyway, it takes a little bit of time to do those videos. But here's the other thing that I don't want to necessarily have to deal with. I don't want some 30-year-old mechanic, 30 years of doing mechanic work, telling me I'm doing everything wrong, when in my mind, and I know it to be true, They've been doing the wrong thing for 30 straight years, but they won't admit it, but I'm doing it wrong. So I don't want these armchair quarterbacks, or I read it on the internet, or so-and-so said to do this, so you're doing it wrong things. That's part of the reason why I don't do that. Because what'll pain you is the proper way, I don't care what all the bullshit they say on the internet, the proper way to set it is you can get a marker and you keep playing with your push rod length until the sweep is the narrowest. So when that mark that it's made on the tip of the valve, when it's at its narrowest spot, you got it. That's perfect. The dumb thing is when it's like, well, it's not in the center. The center, that usually if you get it the narrowest, it's usually slightly above center on the valve. The people that keep trying to aim for putting it in the center usually have a wider sweep pattern, which means more guide wear because it's pushing the valve one way or the other. And also, I hate to say it, you're creating more friction. You can actually, which I haven't done this in forever because I stopped building engines. But if you have that sweep off, and maybe I will do that dyno test because that'd be an interesting one. Having completely wrong push rods, but at least not enough where to break stuff, and then putting the correct length push rods on so your rocker arm geometry is correct. I'm talking about with stud mount for you guys that don't understand what I'm saying. To see how much power it gains, because I can know for sure when you have the wrong sweep pattern, it is much more difficult to turn the engine over because the rocker arm's fighting against things and it's at the wrong angle. That'd be a great dyno test, though. I mean, I'd still get people, you did it wrong. Wrong. It's not how I did it. I've been doing this for 30 years. My name is so-and-so. I used to work for Dart in this post-op company. Every year. Justin West, yes, we hear you, brother. Chevy RC, would a back cut test be a bigger difference than on the small block than the LS because the LS already has good lift flow? Well, the LS is going to be using my small chamber LS heads, and they flow about as good as my Dragon Slayer 2.9. They're almost the same. Their flow curve is virtually identical, which would be the same flow versus small block versus an LS. So I don't know that that'll make a difference, if we're being honest. Troy Michaels, you retracted a message. Gasoline pistons for. Can you talk about the radius leading into the top of the port on a single plane intake? Do you typically raise it as much as you can? That's a great question and I cannot easily answer that one. Sometimes I do, and I really think I need to play with more on that on the dyno because typically I'm raising it because I'm trying to make the opening larger. So in other words, I need more taper, which means the opening has to be larger. So that makes that radius different. Although in fairness, if you're actually truly measuring the radius of where I'm taking it out, the radius actually ends up larger. But it's also making better signal and better eye line side to the carburetor or throttle body. It's getting cold in the shop. I should have turned on the heater before I started this. That wind's moving the door and blowing cold air in. Flow on the trick flow heads behind you. They look awesome. Great price too. Thank you, sir. Since you asked. I only mention this in live feeds because I know no one else is going to go back and watch these things. So the reason why this is on here, and it's on a 4155 bore. The 383 is a 4-inch bore, so I'll be flowing on a 4030. Someone sent me these heads, and it's a set of small block Chevy heads. Not these. I won't even mention the name because I don't want to hear from their fan base about how wrong and stupid I am. Who's this guy? I can't stand it. But anyway, the sad part, it's not the company necessarily. It's their fans of that company. But anyway, he's now a customer. This person sent me a set of heads. Well, he's first to start off with an email and said, I got X heads, I won't mention the name, and these are some bad 23-degree heads, man. These are supposed to be the best out there. And I thought, and he's like, would you consider flowing them? And I say, yeah, I don't mind flowing them. But in my head, I'm like, not doing a video on it. Not going to do a video. because I don't want to deal with that negativity. Nope, not touching that one. And no, it's not Chad, before anybody asks. But anyway, X company advertises all the time on Facebook, and I've said this about a bazillion times because it's true. You don't have to be the best at anything. You don't even have to be good at anything. You don't even have to do what you're saying you're doing on the internet. You just have to convince people that what you're saying is true, whether it is or isn't true, period. So this particular company, they advertise all the time on Facebook, and people who've never bought their stuff, and some do and some don't, believe the garbage. And they must spend a ton on advertising. But man, I'm like, I've seen some of their other heads, and I'm like, that's okay. But they believe it, they're tough, and I almost want to say their catch line that is on this. But anyway, so it came in yesterday, and I know about this head because I'm like, my 227, which is somewhere here in this wall of, oops, I messed that one up. But my 227 dark imitation head, it's the one that Bob did for his one of the 406. We actually used it in his 421 too. But that head casting, which was Jegs casting, which is made by a whole bunch of others, that's the casting that they used. So this company that he said, man, these are some bad 23 heads. Which, by the way, they're emailing me that, and I'm thinking, you email me this, you know I sell 23 degree heads. A lot. Like it's mostly my primary thing, but I do all sorts of heads. That's not their primary thing. So I was like, well, I don't know. And I was like, look, I don't want to burst your bubble, but I don't think they're going to be as good as you think they are because I know the casting they use and I know where water is. So I know what you can make bigger and what you can't make bigger. He's like, well, do you want to flow them? I was like, yeah, I don't mind flowing. Could you assemble them too? I was like, don't mind that at all. They came in yesterday. So I was like, I dropped everything I was doing and I took apart the heads and I was like, so. And I wanted to do a video. I did, I swear to God. Because I was like, now I understand. Now I get it. Now I truly do. Because I spend more money on, my CNC guy has a way better finish on the ports, or especially on the chambers. Our chambers are so much cleaner. Like I put that head up against mine. You look at the chambers, mine looks way smoother. There's not, in other words, my step over is far less. So the chambers look better. Same with the intake ports, it looks better. And so I was like, okay, no big deal. But on every CNC head I do, and this adds a considerable amount of time, I hand blend every single one of them. So I'll set the throat on every single one. If there's a shadow, I try to blend it with the cartridge roll just so it looks better. These, they literally come off the CNC machine. They got their $100,000 CNC seat and guide machine, the single point cutter that's superior, puts that on there and boxes it out the door. Because I open it up, I'm like, yeah, the valve drop probably seals, no doubt about that. But you didn't blend it, so it's got a ledge right there. So I'm like, yeah, I can tell you right now because I've had Chris Straub, he did the Ford ones for me, the trip flow, came right off the machine, I flowed them, and I was like, man, this is down. Blended it, there it's back again. These I like, you didn't do any blending, so it's like, I know it's not even going to match what your prototype was. So there's none there. Then there's shadows in the port, not that many, very, very little. But I was like, I cleaned that up. So that's labor that they didn't have to do. They didn't have to do. So how am I still cheaper than they are? They're doing less labor with it, but they spend that extra money on advertising. But it gets better because they're like, their chamber cleaned up everywhere. There's always spots on mine that it won't because it's a Chinese head, so the casting kind of changes. So I'm like, their chamber's bigger. But then I looked around the spark plug and I was like, wait a minute. How did they do that? Did they just do a finer cut? And I was like, I better put the spark plug in it. Sure enough, the spark plug sticks into the port. So in other words, it's exposed out of it. Dang it. Oh, wait. Spark plug. About this much. So you got your top ring that has no threads. You can see that and one thread sticking into the chamber. Now I will say my ProMax do the same thing, but here's the difference. The ProMax stock, unported, are that way. That dart head, imitation head that they have, because that's the same one I use, it doesn't start that way. It's flush. Matter of fact, it's a little bit in. So when I run my program through it, it's exactly flush with the way it should be. So the spark plug's exactly there. Theirs is exposing it by machining. Granted, my Chromax does that, but it's that because it was that before. In other words, they intentionally did that so the chambers would look pretty. But it still doesn't look that pretty because the step over's crap. Regardless, I'm like, flow it. Maybe they're going to make a fool of you because it's bigger than mine. Mine's a 227, theirs is larger. Don't want to give it away because of the giveaway which head it might be. Also, their exhaust port, which I'm like, what the are you thinking? The exhaust port between the two, on a small block Chevy, you got two exhaust ports. You got like a little island in it, a little bit of material between the two. You want to leave material there because otherwise, this is dumb shit. I'm going to say it. I leave material there because the headers, okay, headers don't make them. Now, I've never seen a header ever, period, zero, never, where it's just an 1/8 inch thin between the two between the small block Chevy, an 1/8 inch thin. You know why I don't see it? Because how in the hell are they gonna get two pipes together like that? They got the exhaust pipe in one and the other. It's wider than that, which means, well, you could just port your header to it. No, the hell you can't. There's no. So the only reason why they did that is to make the exhaust look better on the bench. Looks fantastic, right? Looks fantastic. Mine has more material on that section because I want the header also to seal the header gasket. Also, you literally have the exhaust port running right into the header. So that was one of the things where, I don't flow with an exhaust pipe, but if I did that one, I'd go, oh man. However, let's just flow it. And I know I seem fired up because I was pissed off when I did it too. My leg's starting to cramp. This is going to be about a bad day. Anyway, so I flowed it. And I recorded the whole thing in case I chose to ever do a video. It was like, I put the camera back there because I was like, no one's going to accuse me of effing cheating. Hooked all the stuff up, showed it, flowed it. And then I was like, and at the same time, because I had the trick flow head sitting here. I already had it set up. I was like, I'm just going to show you this. I'm going to put this trick flow 215 on and flow it right after. So the 215's a lot smaller than that other so-called X head. And flow the trip flow. The trip flow, by the way, that big exhaust sucked balls. The trip flow beat the crap out of it. And on the exhaust for sure, like a lot. But my exhaust also beat the crap out of it. On the intake side, mine was up just barely on some spots and some was down. But for the most part, it was more up. These ones, the low lift, no, the other one beat it. But this one kicked the crap out of it at 6. Here's what's astonishing, and yes, I'm going to do a video on it. That Trick Flow 215 right here, brand new, brand spanking new. This dude flowed 320, if my memory's right. 320 at like 600. Why am I bringing this up? Because I flowed the 230, it flows 308. The smaller one flows more at peak. Now at the lower lift, 230 is way better. Hence why I need to do the back cut dyno test. Because if the low lift's more important, then that 230 is definitely still better. But if peak's more important. Hello, darling. Anyway, you got me in a bit of a talker right there. Moose's Garage. Is there a flow advantage of using 1.6 rockers on a street-driven small block Chevy, or better to stick with 1.5s? I've never seen you lose power for 1.6, so I'd say if you can do it, do it. I don't know if it's worth the money, because you might pick up 5 to 10. Some cases you'll pick up more, but you get the idea. Eric, what you're saying about sweep pattern is correct. You're right, Chris Allman. Thank you. Bobby Williams, thank you. Hi, Eric. This is Troy Michaels. In the LS Cam Challenge, you ran all the cams in the Performance Trend Engine Analyzer, and the results looked really close to the actual dyno results. Do you think this would? They weren't really that close because they had like David Weiser when England in close. I had Bobby in second place, and he did end up winning. Be helpful for cam design. Oh, I get what you're saying. Big Mike's Garage 406. The thing about engine building, everyone has their own way of doing it. Seeing the other ways of doing things is how you learn. Ignore the haters. They don't want to learn. Yeah, but man, the problem with the haters is they'll run their mouth to everybody. And people are flat out gullible. Gullible. I just told you a story about this set of cylinder heads because people believe that bullshit. Slopey. Toward the outer side, just a little past center of the valve with a thin mark. Don't know what you're talking about. A Slopey 22. Kim Barr, Race Engines and Garlands has done my machine work for years. Has been big on back cutting valves until around 2015. He said he found more power with no back cuts. Could be valve specific, job specific. Maybe. And see, there was one other person who was the guy at the Engine Masters. He finished one spot ahead of me and he only beat me by 6 points. And he was saying, I don't use back cut. It changed to what the cam needed. But I never tested it, so I don't know. On a 4.6, this is from Daryl Bills. On a 4.6 small block Chevy, 10-to-1, which head would you recommend for 500 horsepower? Of course I'm going to recommend my own stuff. I'm going to recommend something expensive because why not? Probably my Brodix IK 180 that's ported, it's CNC ported to 208. That one I think is the bee's knees for a street deal. Back cut and valve job is basically the most important part of it. That's true. Craig Cheeks, is flow bench bore fixture different between small block and big block? Can you do a video of valve shrouding to show the difference between which bores do you have on your bench? Okay, this is Craig. I'm not even going to bother with the rest. You can't, the way that these work, and I don't have it, I hate to get up so I'll knock all this crap over, but the way that this deal works is there's a bore sleeve that's in here. And that bore sleeve is size specific. So it's whatever bore size you have. This top plate has to be the same bore size. But it's actually like you can think of the top 1 inch of your deck of your block. So I can't do that, is kind of what you're asking. However, you can look back, because I have done this many times. If you look back, there are times when I flowed a head on a 4.310 bore, and then a 4.625 bore, several times. That's probably the biggest difference. We're talking 300 thousandths difference. That does have a big difference. On a small block, I flowed them several times on a 430 and 4155. It does make a difference on some heads, but not as much as you think. It really depends on the head. If it's really shrouded, yes. If it's not, no. Norman Duncan, hey, Master Grinder. Good to see you, buddy. Long time person with this company. Steve, man, I suck at name. Grabowski. Hey, Eric, long time channel watcher. Thank you. Have you seen new 23-degree heads by? Nope, sure haven't. Carl Jr. Is Nick going to the 23-degree challenge? I love to go, but money is tight right now. It'd be cool to meet both of you. I haven't talked to Nick in forever, so I don't even know. No, he has to sign up. Exactly one person to sign up. And that's a guy named Trent Denny. He's one of my longtime customers. He's in Iowa, of all places. So I told him, man, don't come. I'll refund your money. Don't come. If I don't have 25 people, don't spend all that money on gas to come. What'll probably end up happening is if it doesn't, because I've already committed the time to the guy at the track. I'll probably just have some of my buddies, because I got enough friends anyway. I'll say, hey, you guys want to pitch in or whatever you can help, and we'll just go and we'll just make some runs and have some fun. We want to grudge race each other, whatever else. Of course, I have Bishop's Nova there. Let's just go have some fun, and we'll just do what we do. Show up, you show up. But I don't know about Nick. I haven't talked in a while. Anyway. Slope 22. We used to spray mist and spray paint in the front of the port on the flow bench, and all the paint will wind up in the center of the back of the port, go up straight up pretty much. I used to do, you can go back and watch the earlier videos on my YouTube page, because I used to spray Dyno into the port, and I put the camera on the slow-mo, and you could actually see what it was doing. with when I sprayed in here on it, especially with the Dragon Slayer. I did that on a bunch of those. By the way, is that gospel? Does that help necessarily? Maybe a little, but not much. Greg Gallagher. Any chance of doing a cam test with comparing the power increase from just increasing lift, example 750 900 lift? I did one with the 1.7 to 1.8 ratio on the 540 big block, and that didn't do hardly anything. But as far as that big of a difference, that would almost take a huge rocker ratio change, and that requires money because there'd have to be a Jessel setup, and Jessel is very happy and proud of their rockers. So yeah, I don't think so. It's too expensive. Trent Langer. Internet says you can't use a 106 lobe separation camshaft with heavy nitrous use. Talking small block Chevy. You ever tested different lobe separation angles with nitrous? No, and so many, very few people actually use nitrous, and I'm like, The more people I know that used to use nitrous don't use nitrous anymore. They all pretty much switched. They're either turbo, they're mostly turbo now. So when nitrous went sky high, they're like, enough of this. Now Trent Denny uses it. However, from all those people, all my friends that did the 106, that did nitrous stuff. So there's been many. Whenever they do 106 lobe separations or tight lobe separations, typically what happened is up to about 250 shot, man, they were flying, right? It looked like they had it figured out. And then they go to a bigger shot, like 350 or 300, and go zero faster. Because the cam dynamics just don't support the bigger nitrous. And that's the reason why typically people switch, because you want to spray more to it. You'll find out too. You'll get to that 106, you'll get to about 250 or so, and you're like, it just ain't running any faster for what you're spraying extra to it. Moose's Garage. On a small block Chevy air gap intake, would it be beneficial to smoother lay back the divider on the intake? I don't know. Every time I touch that divider, it seems like it hurts it. I don't know. That's probably not a bad thing. I need to do some development work on the dyno with the intake manifold itself. But I keep playing with the heads. But maybe I'll mess with the dual planes. But also, I've always said this. If you're trying to modify a dual plane to make more power, you should have switched to a single plane. Pontiac 411, Piston 353, small block Chevy won 2017 Ninja Masters with a 52 degree and no back cut. BS came in second. He's the one that beat me, Creason did. He's the one that beat me, like I finished 6th, he finished 5th by 6 points. And I think he adapted it further whenever he did the 2017. Although, yeah, maybe. 6 o'clock block. Have you ever tried putting fins on the bottom of the ports on a small block Ford? I've seen you do a small block Chevy. I tried. So when I was doing that, developing that trick, oh man, that about cramped on me. Ooh, that'd have been bad. You watch me spring up like a chicken. But I tried on the trick flow high port heads and a few others. It doesn't work. It doesn't seem like it works. It doesn't gain. Then you see a fin. It doesn't help. It just doesn't work. You're just, matter of fact, you're making it worse. So have I tried? Yes. And so far, up till now, it hasn't helped. Mike Code, have you ever milled down the center divider in a Mopar 6-pack intake? Nope. I don't deal with a whole bunch of other Mopar stuff. The Gen 3 Hemi is about the only Mopar stuff I really want to deal with anymore. I think I said this in the last live feed, people really got pissed. It's mostly because of the Mopar guys themselves, man. And I'm not trying to be a dick, although I am one. I understand that, by the way. But like the 440 Mopar guys, I'm saying it. Forget it. They're more entitled. They complain about the price on literally every single thing, knowing that no one else does the stuff. There's only rare people to do. And then they're never happy about what they got. Ever. So it's like, I don't want to deal with these people. So I even had the flow plate and stuff. And it's not all. There was a guy I did a set of Speedmaster heads, and no, I don't typically do Speedmasters, but he was from Oklahoma City. Really nice guy, like a super nice guy. And he said, I got a set of these Speedmasters. Would you mind porting them? And because he was a nice guy, I was like, yeah, I guess I'll give it a shot. But you understand, these are like time bombs. He's like, I don't care. So I ported a set for him, and he did really, really well. And then he brought me a set of Victors, and those did really, really well too. But I would say he's probably more the exception than the rule as far as dealing with Mopar guys. So that's why you don't see me do W9 and other stuff. They're just more likely to complain. And like LS, like everything's got their stereotypes. I guess you say small lot Chevys don't want to change the ways. LS guys want things cheap, cheap, cheap. 440 Mopar guys just want to complain about everything. Ford guys just want to fight. Justin West. I have a 3-3 with 1101 with fast burn heads, mild port job and port with valve job. I rolled the port openings at 1289 gasket, too large. What intake would you choose? You give me part numbers and I don't know which ones they are, so hell, I don't know. You say Super Victor 1 or Super Victor 2. I don't know what a 2814 is or a 2913. I don't sell enough of them to even know what that is. L Gamer. Do you think GM fast burn heads have potential with porting? Or would you be better off going with a different head? I showed one on the channel, which then people were like, look, dumbass, there's 3 different versions. You only got version 1. And it was just a guy that brought one in, and I'd never seen it before. But I literally got that. And that one particular one, because they cut the throats so big from the factory, you really can't do much with it anyway. I picked it up, don't get me wrong, I helped them and improved it some, which I did a video on. But it wasn't like, man, this is... I was thinking, probably should just get a different head. Let's see. Eric, you're no Superman, that's for sure. There's DZ Performance. Hadn't talked to you in forever. Carl Jr., there's Nick. I was just asking Eric if you signed up for 23 degrees. Dakota's fat. Dakota's timeout. Is this Superman's live stream? You bet it is. You bet it is. Need some more questions. I can't believe I ain't got that anymore. 102 people watching? Man, you guys don't have a life. If your wife's watching right now, tell her, look, from me to your wives, thank you. Thank you for tolerating your husband and watching this fantastic guy on television. Thank you from me to you. I know there's at least one woman right now that's like, him again, huh? Him again. I could be watching Woman Wives. For the record, my wife's been watching that. Those girls are smoking freaking hot. Smoking hot. But I have no idea how all the guys look like a square face. Ugh. And I almost think that show is a comedy, because they're like, we didn't get a chance to talk about girl talk, or whatever the thing that is. And I guess one of them's going to be the new Bachelorette. So I was like, she's pretty, she's pretty. But then my wife says, you know, her husband cheated on her. I was like, must have been something. But I know you're like, well, what if a guy done that? And I'll also be like, he must have done something too. Snowblind, better than anything on TV. Bull crap! I tell you what, right now. You know what I mean? You talk about me being an asshole. Let me tell you what I do. Here's how you get your woman to really love you. At first, I thought this was like she would never go along with this. But I said, babe, I want to watch Batman the Animated Series, the one from like the 1990s. I want us to watch it together each night. It's only like 22 minutes long because there's no commercials. You want to watch it with me? And I thought for sure she's going to be like, no, I'm not watching that. She said yes. You know, we've been watching that thing for every day. Well, except for these last 4 days, because I've been up till like 10 o'clock. She's already in bed when I get in. We've been doing that for like 3 weeks. And I really thought she'd be like, this is enough. This is enough. But I'm watching them also like, man, these are really great. You know, they put out like 52 episodes in the season. X-Men's been the 97. that's on Disney Plus. They haven't put out a season in more than a year. How many cartoons did they make back then? And they could just crank them out. Whatever. And it's great stories. All right, 2 real questions now. Edward Bedford. I would think porting a good dual plane, being ported would give more area under the curve and not necessarily top in. Nope. Nope. Here's what will happen. I can guarantee you can port a dual plane all you want. All you're going to do is hump it below 5,000. And from 5,000 on, it's better. You're like, well, that seems like it'd be better area under the curve. Not if you're racing. So if you go to the racetrack, because I've seen it again and again. And trust me, if it hadn't been for one customer of mine, like, I'll show you. He was right. He's like, the dual planes are great, feel awesome on the street. Always slower on the strip. And every time, that's been the case. Don't get me wrong, there's going to be some unicorn out there that's different. But every time I've seen it, you get the drag strip, yep. Brandon driving around town, man, this thing feels really good. Because the drag strip, if you properly do it, you're above 5 grand. 6827 Z27. My wife got tired of me watching and went to bed. Yeah. Sorry, buddy. T-chaps, have you ever experimented with laying short turns back more of angles than radius to see what happens? I don't know how I lay it back with angles. It'd have to be done on a CNC machine. Just that. I don't know how I do it without doing that. But no, when I first started porting it, that's one of the things we played with was laying back the short side a bunch, like just to see where it'd be better. But now I've kind of got an idea, like this is how it should be. This is how it should be. Mike Haas, she went to bed, not even a kiss, LOL. Well, there's worse things. She could be like, give you the little finger, Love you too, babe. Richard Smith, Eric, I watch because I don't know everything. Trying to find how to gain more power and what heads are the best right now for what I'm doing. Besides, I'm retired and live alone, LOL. Well, thanks for watching. I'm trying to figure out the best heads too. So, everybody can, the thing about this is, people will quote me on what heads I think are the best, and then they use what I'm saying. And I say this a bunch, so I'll say it again. I do not know everything. Not even close. Not even remotely close. Sometimes I hit home runs, and sometimes I strike out. So sometimes it just doesn't work. And so, anyway, yeah. Just don't think of me as the god. Oh, this guy knows everything. Let me tell you. No, I just try a bunch of dumb stuff, and sometimes it works. Eric, have you ever floated Pontiac heads or done anything with Pontiac engines? I did one a long time ago. I don't mess with Pontiacs because I didn't have the float plate. I actually had to use a big block Hemi plate, try to figure out where the centers were and do it, and I hated it. But I did it instead of Kaufman high ports. I think it's what they're called. It was definitely Kaufman. I don't know if they high ports. They weren't bad from what I remember, and I did pick them up because there was a guy local and he ran the track. I really rarely deal with anybody local too, for the record. He was a cool guy, but I don't deal with a whole bunch of Pontiac guys that also don't want to do that. And I don't want to buy the float plate, so I don't port the heads because I don't want to give you, I don't want to have, I think they're better without having the flow sheet, at least. And no, flow is not everything, but at least give them something. Trip Linder, let's talk about 750 to 800 horsepower, 4.6 small block Chevys. Build or race. Which heads and compression? You better have as much as you can get. Like 15 or 16 to 1 if you want 750 to 800. And nothing else. And then you need RPM. You're going to need RPM, you need compression. And then you're going to need a little bit of size to get there and a little bit of flow. 6 o'clock clock. Mine just went to bed so I could watch this. You didn't make her, hey babe, wait, come here. We're going to watch this guy. Bob McBabe, what are you doing? Well, I thought I'd have a little chat, I've been talking to Bob all day. I know he's spilling the beans of what's been going on with him. But sometimes, like I say, sometimes I hit a foul ball. So, some are home runs, some aren't. Robert Bray. I don't any. I have asked my wife. Okay, James Miller. I guess with the Mopar guys complaining, the LS guys complaining about cost, 4 guys arguing, at least 23 guys left as customers. That is true. That is true. We're just kind of stuck in our way, like, oh, whatever. Until they're like, no, tell one of their friends. Here's the thing with the small block Chevy guys. They're stuck in it until one of their friends is like, you know what? It'd be faster if you went with an LS. And then there's 2 roads that they'll take. 3 roads. The first road is they're like, F you, buddy. You wait till one of your LS's outruns mine. And then they have to wait till they get turbo and finally outrun your NA. Or road 2, they're like, you know what? I think I'll do an LS. Everybody else doing an LS, I'll do an LS. Road 3, I think I'll get a boat. Robert Bray, I just run stock Cleveland head. Cast iron. Cast iron. Hell no. T-chaps. Some are. Nah, I can't. I don't know. Some guy told Chad, you're the best, and he sucks this week. So take that as a win if you want it. Why? That's not. You know what's sad is like, please guys, I say like all the time, don't tell me this stuff. I don't want to know any of this stuff. I don't want to know if someone say Chad or anybody else. I don't want to know if they say I'm a piece of shit or a horrible person or I'm the worst headquarter. My stuff sucks. I don't want to know. So I don't, because a lot of those people that do that are not even customers. They're people that heard from a herd, and that's a fact. So I don't want to know, because then it has to be inside my head to know what somebody said about somebody else. And I hate it. I got enough drama. I don't need to add to it. I'm trying to figure out how to lose weight while eating the same amount of food and exercising the same. That's possible, in case you're wondering. So I don't want to know that stuff. And if I'm being honest, and I think, let's be honest. Let's be honest. Who has probably had the fastest NA 23-degree small block Chevy hits? Fastest down the drag strip. Let's be honest. Truly honest. It's probably Chad's. It ain't mine. It's probably Chad's. Does that mean I'm a piece of shit? No. Here's what it means. Chad's customers pay a lot more money. A lot more. Their program has got a lot more money. I'm not knocking my customers, because they still spend a lot of money with me. But the guys that are going to spend all this money to be the baddest 23-degree guys out there, I almost had one. And he was in Australia too. Almost. But he said, F this, I quit the whole thing. And I was like, oh. But regardless, the thing is, some people, because there's another cocksucker on Facebook, and I probably shouldn't say this, I'm going to get banned, on Facebook, about how badass LT stuff he is. But he's only that way because of Facebook. And so people do not understand that a lot of the reason why those cars are the fastest, like certain ones, like say Chad's that has that 23-degree heads, would he have gone faster with mine? Maybe. But a customer has to be able to devote that much attention to it. So that my customers are happy going really, really fast. They're not happy, they're not trying to be the absolute fastest. Some are. So, not only to mention an NA. So you have to remember, like when someone says, I've got the best of this, is it because your customer has the best? In other words, could that customer have gone just to be could they have been the fastest with someone else's stuff too? Because we need to be honest about that conversation, because it never really gets brought up. Certain people, it doesn't matter what you give them. They're going to be the fastest, flat out. So they just spend more, do more, and they're fast because of it. I'm not knocking my customers at all. They go plenty fast. And I do not brag on them near enough. Because they'll send me clips, and I'll be like, oh, I'll share it with Facebook, or share it on YouTube. And then I totally forget. It's facts. But, back to the Chad thing. I don't know who that guy is. Someone sent me the thing, I said, don't send it to me. I don't want to be involved. God, why did you make me involved? I don't want to know. I don't want to know. But anyway, Chad has the fastest 23-year stuff. I don't know how he operates as a business. Man, trust me, if you think any business has a perfect reputation or not, like I said, I just told you, sometimes I strike out. There are definitely some customers were like, God, I wish I had that to do again. Man, that did not work the way I thought it would. And then there's times where like the worst ones are like, Trip Dino almost got me one, which he's a great guy. Where like, I don't understand why it's not making the power. I did the same thing on something else and it's not. What is going on and I can't find it? Those are the worst ones. But on the same token, there are some people like, well, that's your mistake. You must have done something wrong. My stuff's perfect. You're just an idiot. I won't do that to a customer. Although sometimes I do think some of them are complete morons. And yes, I have definitely fired a customer and sent them right to Chad. Yeah, there was definitely one. Because I'll tell you this story with it, and I won't go too much details because you want to hear real questions, all 104 of you. He had Darren port a set of heads. Should have been Clue. Probably should avoid this guy. And anyway, he had Darren port a set of heads. And he said, do you think you can make it better? I said, I don't know until I see the heads. Look at the heads, and I'm like, not bad. But I think my stuff I think should be better. Made a head gap filled like 20 CFM better. Send him the head or whatever. He goes run the drag strip. It's like 2 years later. And he's like, the 60 foots are down. The mile per hour was up, and the quarter mile ET was up, and the 8th mile ET was up. Was it up a ton? No, about a couple hundreds. And so it wasn't like, oh my God, faster, but it did, the mile an hour and everything was better in worse conditions with a worse 60-foot time. Because he's comparing this other one that had a really great 60-foot time to mine with my heads that had a worse 60-foot by like 2/10. It still goes faster in the quarter and more mile an hour, which means to me, there's something going wrong with the suspension that's causing you not to do that. Because for it to gain that much fast speed in the quarter, yeah, because you can have, don't get me wrong, 60 foot's important, but usually if you're down that bad, your quarter mile time is going to be off, and your 8 mile time, and a mile an hour. And it wasn't. But this son of SOB wanted to keep jaw jacking at with me, but I told him whenever I sent him the head, there was one thing I experimented with, and it was the exhaust port. I said, you know, if this doesn't work, send it back and I'll change the exhaust port. This SOB wanted me to pretty much refund this whole money that I spent on the whole thing after he dyno tested, did all the other, he was supposed to dyno test it by the way first. Never did that, so we never really got that. After he'd already ran him on the car, he's like, I want my money back. I'm like, it went faster. I want my money. He's beating around the bush to give me my money back. And I said, I ain't gonna, here's what I'm gonna do for it. I kept telling him the same thing, and he kept thinking if he raised his voice with me, I'm just gonna get. I said, I promise you, I'll redo the exhaust ports, but that's all I'm gonna do. Because I knew he was lying to me, trying to cheat me. You know what I mean? And I was like, he probably did the same thing with Darren. There was clues. So I said, you send me that head back, I'll do the exhaust port like I said it would. That's all I'm gonna do. So he sent me this whole paperwork stuff and all the stuff he read on the freaking internet or whatnot. I redid the exhaust port and I sent it off to him. And he said, send it to Chad. I want Chad to do it. And Chad to do the intake too. And I was like, fine with me. And he said, I'll share the results. I said, I don't care if the heads cure cancer. Don't contact me again. So there's times when I'm like, have it. All you, buddy. Have it. You ain't gonna win them all. There's times, just like I said, and that was partly him, because it even went faster, but there were times, guaranteed, where the customer had been nothing but nice, and I still missed it. And I don't know why. It just happens. So back to that. Chad got me, guys still got the fastest. I ain't. There might be some of my guys that ran some turbo thing and probably not, because I'm bad about, I used to, when I first started calling all my customers to see how they're going. I just got bad about that. So, I don't know, man. I'm sure there's probably some of my guys who are like, nah, I've been like 420s. Matter of fact, I actually do think there's somebody that's been 4s for sure. He did my Nitrous. Anyway. Pontiac 411. Isn't the Pontiac 400 bore the same as the small block 400? I don't know. I don't do Pontiacs. Richard Smith. Well, as long as you've been porting, I'm sure you know more than me. Once I get my 4.6 together, I'm going to email you about heads. I would match my cam to best 11.7 compression ratio 64. Please email me. The best 2 days in boat owner's life is the day he buys the boat and when he sells it. That's what they say. This is the truth. And I'm going to go a little bit further. The guy that's right across the street from me, he has a bass boat. And that dude's out on it every friggin' day. and I want to go fishing all the time. But here I am in the shop. He'll get it, and he's not one of those people that's out there the whole time in the lake. In other words, he can't turn into a lobster. You get out there early, and be back about noon. He was out there. He wasn't out today, obviously, because of wind. That'd be if he did, I'd be like, you fool. He'll be out there when the weather's nice. Always out there. He enjoys it. So, not all boat people are like that. Some really do love it. Robert Gray, racket race motor, been there for 30 years, no rebuilds. If you want to lose weight, eat the same food. It's called Manjaro. I ain't doing that crap either. I ain't doing no stab. Hey bro, it's John Matone. I have an intake and manifold for an LS tall deck. Are you set up to machine this thing down to fit the stock? No. To fit the stock LS? No, I don't. I could mill it. I wouldn't have. Could I mill it down on the surface? Yeah. The problem is I have no idea of knowing how much it needs to be milled off the sides to bring it down. And am I still swimming? Absolutely. Getting pretty good. Pretty good. Robert Gray, go as fast as your water allows. That's the truth. Good evening. Have a good evening. Thanks for all the comment, Eric. Thank you, man. Gavin Hart, yeah, how'd you get Eric all wound up? They're asking me about something that happened on the internet, Gavin. I'm talking to him today, too. I should, if gas wasn't so freaking much, if I had stuff out in the shop, where I'd be there helping you on the dyno, I'll tell you that. AFR 180cc eliminator head, 218, 224 cam. Elrock high flow porter match motors and base, 52 millimeter throttle body, spinning in $6,000. Spending $6,000 worried I would lose velocity trying to gain flow. I don't think you need to worry about that. Turner tuning performance. Have you done any vacuum pump testing? Yeah, a little. It depends on the vacuum pump. So Jamie Chappelle's, he had a 615, we dialed it. It's a big block Chevy. And he had an aerospace vacuum pump, which is the same one that I use in the Camaro. But then when it pulls like 6 or 7 pounds, it did gain. But the ones that pull like 18, they make more, a lot more. This is Matone again. When you do your back cut valve dyno test, are you going to be playing with big back cuts? Or are you going to do a dyno back cut versus non-back cut on exhaust only? It's only on the intake. So Victory ground me 2 sets of titanium valves. One has no back cut and one has one. So it's like, I can't even remember, I think it's 120 wide. Pretty wide, and the other one obviously has 0. I don't know if you covered this before. Center divider dual plane intake. Have you seen cut mill Burris ways? Yes, I have. You can watch a video on that. I would pour heads for a living if it wasn't for customers. That's what I said about teaching too. Was this old? For those who don't know, I used to teach for years. And one of the first teachers I met when I started teaching, she's like, "You know what? You already made a mistake. You know where you'd be best at? Best teaching job ever at an orphanage. You ain't got to deal with the parents." It's the same thing with any business. It's the same thing, man. It's just people. The keto diet melts it off real fast. As Bishop and I have discussed, because he's really smart on this stuff, smarter than I am, because he keeps track of calories like I wouldn't believe. You'd think he's almost anorexic or something. He's not. But he's like, and it's true, because I actually saw a study on this. It's not necessarily what you eat, which you're like, it's still calories. If you're in a calorie deficit, you will lose weight. Period. Because there was a famous professor that he just to prove a point, he did that. Because it's like someone said you can't eat Twinkies and lose weight. So what he did was he proportioned out 1,800 calories versus a Twinkies, and he had just Twinkies for like 3 weeks, and he was just eating Twinkies. That's all he had. But it was calories, and he ended up losing like 8 pounds of fat. And some of you are like, well, what about the rest of the stuff? Bet you it's fats and triglycerides and cholesterol is all worse after. Nope. All those drop too. It's calorie deficit. And that's hard. So I have been eating less. It's just hard because I like to eat. It gives me a time to talk to people. You know what I mean? Yeah, well, Gavin. Yeah, well, if my grandmother had wheels, she would be a bike. Ain't a damn thing cheap these days. If we see, we'll see y'all when we see y'all. Also got a little surprise when we come out here next. I hope it's a good one. Are you with the waitress? Come on, buddy! For those that don't know, Gavin was single at the time. I don't know if he's still single. But we were working our tails off. So we got like done super late. We had Terry from PBM there. So he's working late too. And he's older than I am. And Bob's already like, he was already been this day 3, he's tired. So we go to this bar. Only reason why I went to the bar, not like, oh, we go to the bar, we're gonna hang out. No, we went there because they were open so we could get food. And there was, of course, a single woman at the that was our waitress. And I tried my best to get Gavin to grow some balls and try to hook up with her. That was hilarious. But, of course, he was cowardly. Or smart. One of the two. He'll say smart. Alright, I'm hoping to see your 3-3 Dino crack 600 horsepower close to it. I would love to. You know what I really like to do with that 3-3? Because I think this sucks. The pistons. Those pistons are the stock replacement hypertetic dished pistons. They're 4 eyebrow bleed, 5/64 rings. Like I almost want to, when we get done doing this, and I wish I had the money, or just AFR, the company that owns AFR, also owns Racetech. It's so hard to get stuff, and I know they don't. They help me out a lot. They really do. But I would love to get an actual set of pistons for that. They have a thinner ring pack and a flat top, and then put it on there like Dyno exactly this. Just switch the pistons and Dyno it again, because that rings are definitely holding back 20, and the dish ain't helping either on compression. So Pontiac 411. When I built houses, I had 50 kids, and they all drove trucks. I wish you. I'm trying to get an extension added on to the shop. You know how hard it is just to get people to return a call for that? And I'm like, look, I really just need you to come out and just give me a quote, so I can pass it on to the maker. Crickets. Turner tuning performance. How do you think about Trick Flow 215 compared to the ProMax 215 Project X? That one, this 215 kicks the living crap out of the stock 215s. Now that 235, which I don't even know if they're advertising on the website, I designed, will probably beat this. I know it will beat this. Carl Jr., calorie deficit equals facts. I lost 50 pounds in 6 months eating 600 a day. I ain't doing that. Hell no. What the hell's wrong with you, man? High protein, low carbs to keep my energy up. But it was low calorie that burned the fat. If you really want to lose weight, just get, it's kind of like a colonoscopy, like every month, because you can't eat anything for like a whole day almost. You can't drink anything besides water either. My meal for that whole day was sweet tea. Chevy RC, would you like Stone Cold Stunner dumb people if you wanted to? No, but I do think the reason why God does not give us powers like X-Men and stuff is because let's say I was Magneto. I swear to God, when I was driving down the road, I'd be like, "Poof, get out of my way, bitch! Poof, out of the way." There'd be so many people in the ditch. The wreckers would never end. They're like, "Oh, you're going slow in your front end, aren't you?" And it's your fault. Your fault. Anyway, Bob McVeigh, are you on crack? You're wound up. No, I'm just trying to stay warm. That wind keeps blowing here. Someone forgot to turn on the heater before I started this thing. Gavin, ain't he? So did you get a girl? Hot Rod Ray. I lost 30 in 30 days with severe COVID. Couldn't keep anything in. That's not the way I want to lose it either. I've had COVID, I think twice. It ain't that bad. Ain't that bad. I was sick all the time in TD though. All the time. So my immune system was like, I'm ready for anything. Gavin, wound up so tight. If you fed him cold, he would produce a diamond in 3 days. That's what I'm hoping for, baby. Yeah, gotta make the money somehow. I have a friend 30 minutes from you. I will ask him if he knows any good construction guys in your area. That's the problem is because this shop had amounts to house. So it has to go to the HOA. So a lot of the shops you see are pole barns. So they put the poles, you guys know what it is. This is a stick frame, which means they put the wood on top of the slab. Most of the outdoor building people do not do these. So to get an extension on, they have to do the same thing. They're like, nah, ain't my thing, man. I do metal buildings. So like, I wish I could do that. Ain't my thing. I do pole barns. I wish I could do that too. We can't. T-chaps. Since you're wound up, how about some good stories from the Speed Talk forum days? There really wasn't arguments on Speed Talk. Speed Talk was more civil back then. I think I got banned. So before someone says, well, on Speed Talk they mention your name. Hell, I don't know. Don't want to know. Don't tell me. Don't care. But they didn't. That even people weren't that way there. That was Yellow Tube. Yellow Tube was what Facebook became. Yeah. Or Yellow Bullet. Sorry, I said Yellow Tube. Yellow Bullet. Carl Jr. I'm going to call it quits here soon anyway, Carl, but I shouldn't say soon, about 27 minutes. Good night. Thanks for the chat. You're no Superman. You don't forecast iron heads. Gavin Taylor, when is the small block Chevy cam challenge? Sorry if I missed the update. Yeah, it was in the update yesterday. Talked about that. So here's the best way to talk to you. Just might as well say it, because I get asked at least once or twice a week. Some from competitors, and trust me, it's the bird in my bee in my bonnet, I guess. Because trust me, I want them to have this thing done too, because I feel like a crook. So I'm like, yep, we're gonna have a small Chevy cam challenge. Yep, we're gonna have it, and then it's still not here. Trust me, I feel like a fraud. This is exactly what I was afraid of. But anyway, Coombs put the engine together, so it's put together. Their dyno wasn't working. They've been fighting with the dyno company. I called Brad about 2 weeks ago, who's like one of the guys there, and he said he thinks Justin, who's my main contact at Coombs, said they think they just got it working, but they got to make sure things are working right because they got another board in. I don't know if the board is continuing to keep working because they had a board in before that worked for a little while, then no longer work, or if it's repeatable, or if it's able to copy what the other dyno does. So I don't know. I'm going to try, time permitting, give them a call tomorrow and find out. Because honestly, I have no idea. And yeah. I feel bad about it. I'm going to be like, hey, I'm just going to go get the engine. I'll buy a fuel injected setup, or I'm going to go down to Dunsworth with this dyno. Because even if I was to do that right now, Dunsworth probably couldn't touch it for a month. So, you just wait it out. Somebody should call Weingartner security. I am the security. I just picked up a set of Pro Max 200cc heads after watching a video of you flowing them. Great, you didn't buy them for me. You should have. Doing some small casting cleanup in certain areas, but overall, nice head. Can't wait to use. Good. LA Gamer. How often do you see stock 200 blocks break? And what kind of power ET? All of them. This is what kills me. But don't let that hurt you, because this happened on the dyno with Bob. He can tell you this exactly, and I knew exactly what happened. Every single one of those 400 small block Chevys, and it's not the end of the world. Don't let the internet tell you this. They crack between the steam hole and the head bolt hole. It's just a matter of time. 99% of them. You can change heads, and you torque it down and cause it to crack just from age. Is it the end of the world? Absolutely not. You just got to make sure you got silicone around it, and it has to be a head bolt, not a stud. Otherwise, it'll pull water all the way through up and it'll drip down around that. Unless you silicone the top around where the stud and washer, all that is, it's going to leak water into the engine itself. But if you use a head bolt, it's not a problem. But aggressive block braking, no. And I made stupid power with them, like 680. Which isn't like, I shouldn't say stupid, but good power. I know others made way more than that. Scroll up 13 comments and answer my question. I don't know what your question was there, Tim. Maybe you should ask it again. There's too many comments. I only got 101 people. You know, last time I had 134. Envy's a bad thing, whatever. Alex Turd Guy. Would you recommend to grind a good hydraulic cam for a flat top L31 Vortec 350? Comp has gotten ridiculous on their prices, in my opinion. $550 for an off-the-shelf roller cam? And honestly, they're probably just more realistic, for being honest. Because I think cores now are pretty high. But if your best budget one is Summit. I'm probably going to throw a Summit camshaft in that 350 that's here on Bishop's Nova. Get a little more pep in its step. Pontiac 411 Speed Talk has chilled out on all the drama. Mike reinstated everyone who took when he took it over, even both my secret out aliases. No, he didn't, because after he took it over, I know I got banned, and I know 2 other people that got banned. Marcus Watson, do you think you will ever try the AFR 185 street heads on your 383? Also, are you curious to see how your port work compares as far as gains from the 383 versus 406? Probably not. I think AFR, I would love to have them send me a set of 195s, but I think that would have 2 bad consequences. And that's the reason why I don't think that they'll do it anyway. With Trick Flow put the heads on there, even though I would probably never mention Trick Flow and AFR in the same, intentionally I guess, is trying to make them as a comparison. I think both Trick Flow and AFR would be offended to have them tested on the same engine because it'd be a comparison and feel like one of them would feel worse than the other. But as far as comparing it to my own stuff, that 383 for sure is getting my, it's junk back there because we messed up one of those. My IK 180 CNC head, that for sure is going on there because that's really what it should be for. Eric, have you ever maxed out a set of GB 2000s? No, you know how many people ask me to do those? I have a big fat zero. There's one that's really big down here that I got from Ron's. I was going to try and modify and make my own, but no one's paying for that anyway. I had stock 400 cracked in the cylinder and lost water. Heated, surprisingly, still ran fine. Finished 7th, but it had to tear it down and found the problem. That sucks. I don't want to go to forums anymore. It's not 2001 anymore. Besides, I got time. Turn it. For a small block Chevy 388, 600 horsepower, E85, would you size the intake smaller on E85 than gas due to the fact that the E85 is heavier? Would lose velocity with a bigger intake? I usually leave it the same size. Maybe go up a little bit, but usually the same size. Because you still need the velocity to move the fuel. Justin West. For the fast burn head intakes, both are Super Vics. 2913 is a standard Super Vic like the 604 crate. The other is a 2814 conventional pattern for the cast iron bow tie Vortec. What's your favorite intake for them? Thanks for giving the actual information on what they are. I do appreciate that. I don't know. I really don't know on that because I never tested those fast burn heads. One, they were cast iron, but that wasn't even the biggest thing because back when they were out, they were very expensive heads. Like very. Like at the time, I think they were more expensive than the Dark Iron Eagles. So why didn't anybody buy them? I know you're gonna say for rules, but I was like, why would I? So I don't have an answer. I can't answer that question. I know that sucks. You like came on my live feed for an answer, but if I gave you an answer right now, it'd just be a matter of opinion, and it could be a totally wrong one. I have a couple of extra usernames that feel like trolling. I don't. Because again, it's the reason why I haven't gone back to Yellow Bullet, and the reason why I haven't gone back to Speed Talk. Because it's like, why would I read? Because I know I'm going to look for what they said about me. And it's just going to make me upset. So why do I need to feel upset for something that didn't matter? Because if I didn't know that day, nothing changed. But if I know, then somehow I need to make myself work. I don't need to know. My life is doing just fine the way it is, or not fine the way it is, depending on what the mood is. So, no, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I don't know. Besides, what the benefit from Speed Talk was in 2000s, early 2000s, was if someone legitimately had a real question, and you wanted to find out from a real professional, you could ask the question there, and real professionals would answer in a real professional manner. Then it became real non-professionals acting like they were professionals, answering in a non-professional way. Ask AI. AI is full of crap. You know, it's funny because we were underneath the car because I couldn't remember exactly how much clearance you needed to have between the converter and the flywheel or flex plate. So I was like, Bishop, get your phone out and ask the internet how much clearance you're supposed to have. So he asked like Chat GPT, and it said like 3/8 of an inch. I'm like, that thing's retarded, man. You got the wrong thing on. That ain't right. Something's up, man. That ain't right. And he showed me. Sure enough, it's because remember what I said about those forums? AI is using the data that it gathered from forums. So for the people who claim to know everything, put that answer on there. AI doesn't know that guy was a complete moron. So anyway. Yellow bullet, anything goes, was anything goes. It was. Because I remember, I will say, I got on Yellow Bullet, and there's definitely some X-rated stuff there. And it'd be like, looking at some of the stuff, and you're like, no way. But some of it would be like, that celebrity never did that. And sure enough, they did that. You're like, what? There was other stuff too, it was just crazy. I bailed on Speed Talk because 80% of it sounded like a bunch of kids. That's how it happened. Yes. Yellow Book's anything up there. Too many non-professionals out there. LOL, not enough true professionals. True that. Would a ported AFR 210 working on stock 400 block? Yeah. Ain't no problem. No problem at all on that one. Got about 15 minutes, so ask your questions. If it gets too slow, I'll just bail. I'll do like a jack on that piece of wood and just, bah! Maybe he just got tired of hearing her talk. We watched War Machine yesterday. That movie's okay. And just got a woman arrested that was 1,200 miles away from the crime. I don't doubt that. Eric, what kind of numbers do you expect to get out of the Hemi? And what kind of power do you think the 5.7 Hemi will make? I'm hoping a bunch. What I really would like to see it make is, and we're being realistic here, I really would like to see it make about 650 when it's all said and done. So not necessarily the one that's in the car right now, the other one. Which would do a lot of I really would like to see it make 650. Because the 650 NA and a streetable combination, like we're not going like stupid with it. I think 650 NA and that charger, that's some fun. With air conditioning and stuff, you betcha. So 550 to 60, I want to be at that range, 550 to 650 horsepower. And I know you're like, well, doesn't like the charger do like 485 factory? Those Hellcats or whatever, without the supercharger ones, maybe. But I didn't want to put a supercharger. I mean, Torchstorm said they would give me the bracket so I could put the Torchstorm on it, and maybe I'll do that, put that small one on there. But if I did that, they were like closer to 750, which I go okay with that too, with that Torchstorm. I'm not trying to make 800 with it. I got 800 already in the S10, and that thing's a lot. But you know, NA 550 to 650, somewhere in that range. If it hits if it was a bigger one, say it was the 6.2 liter, you know, where it's got the better block, in other words, the board's bigger and stuff, I would really like to see over 700 if it had that. I don't have that engine, so I'm just doing 5.7 stuff because also it's more common. 5.7s are way more common. Tuner turning performance. How much more horsepower is the cam and intake swap going to make them more on old man Bill's 434? They were testing today and calling me. So, I ain't gonna, they're still got a lot more testing that they want to do because they want to wait until the weather doesn't change as much too, so everything stays closer. Let me put it this way, whatever it makes, I wish it made more. If I'm being honest, I wish it made more. So. When you see how often do you see a variation of cylinders? Some being 1 or 2 cc's off from rating of the chamber. That happens all the time. But don't, that's another myth I wish we could bust. Stop being like, every chamber needs to be exactly the same cc. On the CNC stuff, you bet. Typically I can get there, but not all the time. Because what happens is on some of the times, even on my CNC stuff, all the chambers should be the same, period, from the CNC machine. We're milled off the same, everything's milled the same. Here's what gets you. I even set the valve heights, so I'm doing the valve job, I'm sinking it down, should be the same amount. But what can happen is this happens. I didn't drill that guide hole. So that was done for rodents or wherever else. So whenever I'm using that, if that centers are off or the angle's off, and I go sinking that valve job down and get my valve job coming in, there are times where I have to drop it down another 5 thousandths from what it might have been on the others. Typically, they're all within 1, which is really, really close. Most factory heads are not that way, aftermarket period. I would like to keep them that. Sometimes they get as bad as 10. And yes, that sounds bad. But the valve job has to come in, and I'm not going to sink every single one. If you sink it down 10,000, that's something like, on an intake valve like that, something like 0.3 cc's, if not even that. It's 0.1 cc's, ain't going to make a difference. And as cast head, which I know for sure, I CC'd all the heads, chambers for the AFR and Fortune one when I was doing that, you can have a variation of 3, not 0.3, 3 cc's. The engine doesn't give a shit. You give a shit. The engine doesn't give a shit. If you were to do, like, if you had some strict rules you had to follow as far as compression ratio, then it matters. But honestly, on an engine, doesn't really. Because if you think it really does, you're like, well, that one cylinder's got more compression, so it should make more power. Especially if you have a carburetor running a single plate intake manifold, there's always going to be a runner that makes more power, period. Because of the way the runner design is. If you're a big block Chevy, it's even worse. Because even if you're in a tow ramp, you have a long runner and a short runner. One of us making more power than the other. And even, I'll go further. Let's say they're all in LS. All the runners are the same. All the exhausts are the same. And you have a high ramp, and all those are the same. And you're using a throttle body, so the carburetor, everything's centered up over the top. Everyone's getting the exact same. Your headers aren't, which means you're still not making the same power. So, I think sometimes we make a bigger deal out of stuff that isn't that big a deal. Dell married. Worried about buying AFR 918 head as they had chambers or 65 cc's. My 89 Corvette has the 113 head with the 58 cc. How can this be better? It won't be. I mean, it will flow more air. Here's what will happen. You won't make the exact same power. You won't lose. You'll make the exact same. They make a small chamber head. It's like 58 cc's. So if you were to get an AFR dealership like myself, I would say you'd be better to have them you could have them order from a dealer like myself, a small chamber like that. The downside is guaranteed there's going to be some tracking across the deck. It's going to make it look bad. It still seals up fine, but you'd be having the same compression rate with a better flowing head. Robert Bray, what's the best crate motor small block Chevy? The one that Gary Dunsworth sells? I hate those questions like that. Is it worth the time and effort to put bigger valves and seats in a 350 horsepower 396 or just get better heads? I don't deal with a lot of the 396 big block Chevys because most people just go bigger. So I don't have an answer on that one. torque storm and nag 1 equals boom. You know, I heard that about the transmission on those. I don't know. I would like to switch to the beefier transmission, and I was asking Flying Ryan if I'm able to switch it, if I just got a computer out of like a newer charger, if it still could control that, like I could just plug it in, or what would be involved in switching to the better 8-speed transmission. Because it does feel like sometimes it's trying to hunt for a gear. I think it, but I don't know how to do it. I don't know. I need that, honestly. Hey, Bill, how you doing, man? I'm glad you tuned in for my random rants here. Uncle Bob sent me. You're a little late. I got fired up before, man. I was telling Gavin he should go get to that, go to the bar and get with that single woman if he's still single. I mean, Gavin. That girl, she's probably still single for tonight. So he should definitely do his thing. And I was telling Bob he needs to make more power. Hopefully everything goes well whenever he's doing his stuff. So anyway, but good, Bill. Thanks for taking your time with me, man. And God, I hope it works. And thanks for letting me try some different things. So that is kind of experimental. I don't really make that intake that size usually, but in my head, I thought, man, this should be better. But sometimes my head's also an idiot. But I'll say this: one way or another, I'll figure out something. I'll learn something. But anyway, ZZ5458. Have you done any swimming lately? Your swimming competition video was one of my favorites. A little more practice, you can make it a whole quarter mile. I have been swimming quite a bit. I never gave up. So I still do Monday. So tomorrow at 6:30, I have swim lessons every Monday. I won't miss it unless I'm out of town. I don't care. Like this whole place can burn down. I'm still going to be at swim practice. If they're open, I'm there. I've gotten really good, especially on the freestyle. I should say I'm better. I would say I'm really good. Definitely getting the better of the rotation. The arm movement's fine. I'm not so much getting exhausted from the swimming, like the breathing part. It's my muscles are getting really sore. I also have been swimming on Saturday because they have a swim lesson that they have there at 1 o'clock. So I did that yesterday too. That's more. There was a guy in there that could swim as well as me. So I'm in the highest level, and I have to say I'm probably the best swimmer there now. But there was a guy that was just good to me. We were swimming together. He was putting it on me. But anyway, I ran out of credits to do Saturday, and I don't want to. It's like $30 a lesson, and I'm talking like on Saturdays on top of what I'm already spending. So I like to. It's the best exercise period. I'm being serious. Still doing squats and everything else. In June, we have that swim thing again, that competition. That's in June again. And because Bishop should be home, we're going together. And I told Carrie too, because she can swim. I know she can. She had a pool when she was a kid. We're going to try going together. There's 4 lanes, the 3 of us. Well, whoever be in the 4th one. And we're just going to go. Bishop's going to mop the floor with us. But I just want to make it to the end. It's 50 meters. John Tyler, would AFR 315 work good on a 454 stock bore size 600 hydraulic roller? I think it worked fine, a 315 would. But if I was you, and this is just my opinion, you would save money if you got the AFR 305 because the horsepower difference between the 315 and the 305 for that engine is, especially the 600 hydraulic roller, is probably a 10, and you would save yourself about $1,500. You might say, why don't you do like the 290 or 265? Because that head, those smaller heads, they're the rollable design. Intake choices are much more limited. If you're a 454, eventually you're going to step up. You're going to want to do something better, right? Everybody does. That 305 head you can grow. Your 265, 290, you're stuck. What pistons, compression, camshaft are you using on a 383 mule? It's Speed Pro or Federal Mogul Hypertetic, factory replacement Hypertetic 4-valve relief dish piston. It's nothing fancy. Compression ratio is like 10.5 to 1. It's a hydraulic roller cam from Daniel Powell, like 231, 252, like a 540 lift measured. Once I put the better rockers on, I'll check that again. Custom 4x4 specialty. Are you keeping the Hemi fuel injected, and what intake manifold are you thinking of running? Good question. The one that we're putting on the engine dyno, that's going to have the carbs manifold on it, and we'll be running a carburetor because it's easier to run that way. If by chance Gerald has a fuel pump EFI setup that we could run on it, I might try that on the engine dyno. However, in the Charger, that's staying EFI. I am going to chassis dyno that. And I'll have to work with Flying Ryan Performance. We'll do the tune back and forth until we get that right on the chassis dyno as we're changing things. So chassis dyno, fuel injected, engine dyno probably carbureted. Okay. Chevy RC. Have you ever had two small block Chevy heads? One flowed worse than the other stock, but porting both, you can make one better than the other. What head would it be? It's not always where they start. It's how much potential the head has. In other words, what material do we have there that can grind away? If it's already been removed, then that doesn't help me, especially if it's removed from the wrong spots. So there's a lot of heads that are really fantastic out of the box, but can't be improved because they've removed some material from the wrong spot, or there's not enough material behind that, and I'll hit water. So hopefully that makes sense. Got about 2 minutes left, so get your questions in, and then I'm for sure calling it quits and go to bed so I can get up early and go back to work on. I got to blend about 6 heads valve jobs because you know my CNC work I do blend valve jobs. And then I'm gonna start porting this intake manifold for Jeff Goodrich. His heads have been done. The valves finally showed up. I ordered them before I left for the swim deal, and they sent me the wrong ones, so the new ones finally came in. But regardless, manifold's got to be done. I got another set of heads that are done. I forgot the name of the customer for that. I got to port a manifold for another set of heads that are done that need a manifold ported. There's like 4 of them. How much will the AFR 58cc head cost if ordered from you? The TPI long runner intake system is already being built. I need to order heads and get the port dimensions to match. The port dimensions will be the exact same. By the way, you're kind of messing up doing that way, by the way, just let me know. The port runners are the same as what they were before. So when you order a 58cc done, here's how you can tell the price is. I charge the same as what AFR does and Summit does. We have a minimum advertised price we have to sell it for. So whatever the price is, and I think the milling's like $350 or something like that. However, I wait before you have the head before you start on the manifold because the milling, and yes, they do correct the intake phase, changes how the intake sits on the heads, which means you should wait to send the heads into whoever's doing your intake manifold so they can get it matched up better for you. Thank you for taking the time to answer your questions and sharing your knowledge and experience. God bless you, brother. No, God bless you, pal. LA Gamer. Which of your heads would you recommend for a 658 horsepower pump gas 4.6? Thank you for your time. Budget. If you're like, you know, next year I want to go faster, like I'm going to put some compression, I'll make it a 421, I'd say do my Dragon Slayers. They're expensive, but for a reason, they're good. However, if you're like, you know what, I'm on a budget, if it makes 600, I'm good to go. Or in your case, you want to make 650. 650 on pump gas is pretty tough, by the way. No one's happy with Dragon Slayers. I'd probably say though, if you're on a budget, do the 227s. However, tell me to do the 50-degree valve job. It costs a little bit extra because of the different valves you use. Those ones will probably get it. On Bob's, we made like 627 on a 421 with a 10.5 compression ratio. You got to have some other stuff going right too, though. What intake will you be using in the fuel injected Hemi? The one that's on it. The intake that's on the Hemi now is this plastic one that came with the car. I heard from Flying Ryan that if you get like the Hellcat intake, it's better. But he's saying they're like $1,100. I ain't got $1,100. He said high ram I would love to use, but the problem is then you have, it won't fit on the hood, and it has to go under the hood. Or if they made a cow hood, I'd go for that. But I don't think they even make a cow hood for my deal. So, and he said the other block's a piece of shit. So there you go. Stock one looks like. Do you run the floor wing over the short term, or do you stop it short to dump the airspeed over the short term? I was taught the latter. Mine stops before it, so it doesn't continue past it for sure. It actually stops. I don't have it in front of me. I'm trying to picture it in line. It's definitely right before the apex. The one on the big block is way further back, but the one on the small block, the 4060 is a little bit closer to the apex. The other standard one's further back. Just a customer question: how many more months are you behind? I'm curious, just because life is hard. You probably need more time. You'll have plenty of time to save the money because there's like a slew of intakes. You guys try to port one intake for something that I don't have heads for each week. Although last week only got one intake done. And then I try to port intakes for heads that are done. Those take priority because if the heads and intake are together, the intake needs to get done first. If it's just an intake, usually I put you to the back of the list and just the way it goes. So you got a while. Hi Eric, I have a set of AFR 265s on my 439. If you was to work them, how many cc's do you think you could get out of them? I can make them as big as like 290 or 300 cc's. That's up to you. I'd go to a bigger intake valve though. I ported those bigger, they do run. Alright guys, we're after 10 o'clock. It's gotten really cold in the shop because of this wind. I appreciate, oh, I forgot to tell Randy, thanks for 20 bucks. Appreciate that. As you know, by the way, my favorite place to eat here lately, I haven't mentioned this, so I haven't done food stuff. Freaking Jack in the Box, man. I know it's not a Jack in the Box. Ugh. No, I'm telling you, man. It's become like my new fave. So, like, just a chance, this is what I'll leave you with. Every time I get done working out a squat workout on Wednesdays, I will go to the Jack in the Box and I'll get their loaded breakfast burrito and I'll get their large salted caramel coffee. And I am good to go until like 7 o'clock at night. And I love their caramel iced coffee. Light on the ice. I freaking love that thing. And if Robert Kennedy thinks he's taking away that drink from me, buddy, I got a shoe for him. Don't call the Secret Service on me. I'm just going to throw it, but I ain't got enough arm to hit Washington, D.C. from here. But I'll throw it. But no, I do like Jack in the Box. Their burgers are on point. I don't know. I've become addicted to Jack in the Box. But I also have a wallet that says you ain't going to Jack in the Box. But anyway, probably Tuesday video or Wednesday, depending on how time looks. The trip flow had to get the photo on the flow bench. So guys, remember what I always tell you. I'm no Superman. I don't forecast iron heads. I don't respond to Facebook or Instagram messages. The best way to reach me is through email, weingartnerracing@gmail.com. Really wish you guys signed up for that 23-degree race. Well, if you don't, no big deal. I'll make do. You guys, take care.
How do I end this?